Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. And in today's video, we're going to be working on this Predator inverter generator. This is the 7600 running watts and 9500 peak watts. And this generator came into me with a no start condition. And I already know what the problem is, but a couple quick things. So this has 975, almost 976 hours on it. The owner is actually the operator of a food truck, and he's been using this for the last couple years, but he's actually been very diligent with the maintenance. The oil's nice and clean. Does need a new spark plug and a few other things here, but nothing that horrible where it can't be fixed with some standard service. However, the no start condition is something that I had to go and investigate, and I will show you why it is not starting. For context, so this is a model 57080 from Harbor Freight. It goes for about $2,200. And again, I'm very impressed for 975 hours on this machine. It's been well taken care of, but after so long, the one part that is used most often has failed. And that part is the combination switch right here. I don't like this. One, because there's too many functions in this switch here. The knob will have not only the petcock to turn off the fuel, but also the ignition to shut off the machine, and then also a cable to go and choke the carburetor. But when I go and set it to choke, this is supposed to move. Nope. The cable inside, let's get some better light. All goes to that switch. That cable has failed. Now, I did call Harbor Freight, and they did have the part number, and I was able to order it. The lady said that it would take about 2 to 3 days from California to be processed, and then about 5 or 6 days to ship it to me here in Connecticut. Well, that was about 7 days ago. I never got the email confirmation that it shipped, so I called ahead, and sure enough, it's not in stock. Back ordered. Call back in 20 days, and they go in 20-day intervals. That part was only like $18. I don't know when I'm going to see it. What am I going to do? This guy is going to need it for his food truck sooner rather than later, so I need to see if I can try to get this fixed for him. So let's get that combination switch out and see if I could find a replacement cable, or maybe try to repair the cable instead of waiting for that combination switch, which if it does come in, I can at least give it to him, and he can keep it as a spare if I'm successful in repairing it. So let's do that. Judging by how this is installed, there are 3 bolts. You just can't see the third one. I don't know how well you can see it. Maybe you can see it here. We can get the camera. Not really. Well, there's 3 bolts that hold it in there. In order to get to it, the whole front panel needs to come apart. And it looks like it's held in by some 8mm or 5/16 nuts and bolts. The whole panel is going to have to come off, so let's go ahead and get that off. All right, now that we've got you on the tripod here, I've already gone ahead and removed this plastic knob, which you can actually find on Amazon and a few other places. Apparently this plastic knob breaks more often than the actual switch itself, but all it's held in by is a Phillips head screw. All right, I got that one bolt taken care of, and I just realized that I actually forgot. The customer actually has this lift table that he got from Harbor Freight. It's like $200, and this is going to make things a lot easier without having to go and crawl on the ground. As a matter of fact, that might be the next investment for the channel and for the business. Let's get this whole thing off. It's being held in by anything else. Alright, so the switch, got some, these 2 are down here, 2 long bolts. Alright, looks like the rest of them here are Phillips. This whole panel has to pop off here, and I can get inside where that switch is. So I'll grab one of those. All right, zoomed in a little bit tighter. I want to make a quick note on these two screws right here. You're going to have two different size bolts for the cover. You want the longer ones to go here for the inverter unit. All the rest of the short ones go around the perimeter.
I can actually get that.
All right, so now we have these three screws here, which I'm going to hold this combo switch from the back here. I'm just going to take these out. Fairly long bolts. Just put them up here so they roll away. Do it. All right, now that's loose. Move over to the other side here and we'll take a gander. Now here we are on the back, so it's pretty much loose. Now the fuel line from the tank is here and the fuel line to the carburetor is here. And then we have on the opposite side here the cable that is broken inside. I'm going to have to take this off. Looks like this is a 10 millimeter. All right. Get this off first without losing that, which I was just about to do. And looks like I lost it. That's where we had a little stick magnet before. There we go. Stick that to the other magnet so I don't lose it. Or better yet, just put it back on here. But the issue that has plagued this is now, actually, it looks like it's not broken internally in the cable. It might be broken inside here. Put a rag here, and now some hemostat pliers to pinch off the fuel line. I'm going to have to carefully adjust this so I can screw up the camera angle here. All right, now that we have it on the bench, what I've done is I've put the knob back in place. So there's really just three positions. So off, run, and then choke. But we're having the problem, run and choke. This thing is not moving. Put it to choke. It's definitely not moving. So we're going to go ahead and open this up, see what we find. Set this to off. I'm just keeping a rag here because there's just a little bit of fuel. There's two Phillips head screws. And there's the culprit. It's not a very complex piece of hardware here. There is a ball bearing, which I'm assuming is going to go here somewhere. Yeah. Yeah, there's a little ball bearing here. Let me see if I can get it on the camera. Where it's going to sit right in there. That ball bearing is going to sit in there so you can tell the different settings: off, run, or choke. Typical petcock valve. And then this is the problem that we're having. Let's see if I can focus it on this. That's better. All right. It's frayed off. That's why it's not working. All right. Well, is there something specific size here? Maybe we can find a way to go and either repair it, or we can see if we can find an aftermarket replacement that'll work just as good. Come back to that in a minute. All right, guys, I'm back up here in my office. I had to do a little bit of research, and a big thanks to Ken Small Engine Repair and the rest of the Small Engine group. I wound up ordering this from Amazon. It's actually bicycle brake cables that you can use. And the kicker for me was to actually figure out the size of the ferrule, which it's this piece here. And I was able to find the right size, and now the size of the actual cable on the Predator is 1.2 millimeters. This is 1.4, but I don't think that's going to be a big deal. And what I'm going to do is cut it to size and then put a little piece on the end where the carburetor is and screw it tight. And I can basically fix it for a little bit less money in parts, but obviously I got to do a little bit of labor to put it back together. I have no idea when Harbor Freight's going to actually send the part over. Now that I know how it's put together, I see why that it's only about $18 to $25, which is not bad at all, actually. It's just, got to wait more than 20 days for it to come in. It seems a little crazy. In the next segment, I'm going to have those parts in hand, and I measured the sheath of the cable. It's about 10 3/4 inches long, and then the actual cable inside is exactly 14 inches. So that's what we're going to use as a measurement to replace the inside braided wire, if you will, to fix this part of the generator, and hopefully we can get it running again. Here we are a few days later. Finally got the parts off of Amazonian. That's one from Ken's Small Engine Repair. This is showing 1.4 millimeters for the diameter of the cable, and it is not 1.4. It is actually about 1.2, which thankfully the original one is also 1.2, which is exactly what we need. Now the original one here had the ferrule that was on the end here that broke. The size of it, when you look at it from the two rounded ends, so it's about 6 millimeters across, and then width-wise is about 5.5 millimeters. The new one is going to be a little bit larger, more like 6, let me see if I can focus on it, 7 millimeters left to right, and then about 6 millimeters for the total diameter of it. So this is a little bit larger, and it's not going to fit in here. This hole is a little too small, so I have two choices. Either I can grind this down to the size I need for the original, or I can just drill this up a little bit bigger, and I'm going to use a 17/64 drill bit here, and that should be enough to insert the ferrule end in here, and we can cut this one to the exact size we need. At the end here, we have a ball, which I don't have the ability to melt that with, usually you can melt a little bit of lead here, but I'm not going to go that route because of the way that it's hooked up to the carb. I don't really need to. I am going to put one of these ends in that came with the kit on the new piece. That way, when it gets onto the carburetor, there's actually a screw here that will actually tighten up against the cable, and that'll give me what I need. So Let's get you set up on a tripod. And what we want to try to do is kind of match up the length as close as we can get it. There we go. We have a new piece. Save the excess for later. And now what we want to do is we're going to put this little end piece here on here. But before we do that, we have to put the ferrule end, since this is the piece, the side that's going to go in here. I need to make sure that the ferrule end goes in like that. Okay. And now we can put this little crimp end in here. It's pretty soft metal. All right, and now we got to go drill this out. All right, so a 17/64 drill bit. And now we can get this inserted like that. I'll just have to force it with my screwdriver here because it is somewhat of a tight fit. But that will get us the desired effect. And now we can start to reassemble it. All right, with a little persuasion, that is now in there flush. We're good. Oops. Well, don't want to lose that little ball bearing. I'm going to take these screws I put in this way backwards so I wouldn't lose them. Let's take these out. You know, and this was pretty tough to move. I wonder if I have another one of these lying around. Let me check. Nothing wrong with it. It just was a little tough to move. All right, I don't have this specific one, but it's not like there's anything wrong with it, so I'm just going to wind up using it. Not going to harm anything. Now, as I mentioned before, I'll see if I can, this little part right here, can I focus on it? Come on. That's where the ball bearing needs to sit. And the way that it's going to have to be set up, so we want it in the off position, so the longer side is pointing up and barb is off to the right. What we're going to do, we're going to settle this ball bearing right in there and put it in like that. And then carefully, you can only put this really one way. Now that's in there good. And it's settled in like that. Now we should just be able to gently put this all back together. There's only 2 screws that hold it together. I want to over tighten it. And now, can I get that in frame? We want to see this as I turn the knob here. Excellent. And I can adjust it, thankfully, with these threads right here. So now we're ready to put this back on the machine. Now that the switch is back in, we're going to go ahead and put this panel back together. All right, now that we've gotten this wire into this little bracket piece here, now I haven't tightened down the screw yet. We have a little bit of adjustment here on these two 10mm nuts. What I want to do is right now it's set to off, run, choke. And I think that's about right where we need it to be. Run, and then off. So let's go ahead and lock that down on the run. So we don't put any stress on this little end piece here. Tighten this down. So we got off. There we go. It's a little tight, but let me see if I can bend that part out of the way and make the adjustment. Well, let's try a little bit of grease around the end piece here so that Alexia is able to move freely. And as a matter of fact, I'll get myself an acid brush. Well, not quite an acid brush I was looking for, but this should at least give me some lubrication here, just to spread it around. Alright guys, I had to do a little bit more adjusting off camera. Basically, I've maxed out this travel here. I probably cut this wire a little too long, and without the ball end, it doesn't allow for much movement, so I did put a little bit of grease here. This screw will hold it in, and then this crimped end will prevent it from coming out. So right now it's in the off position, run, and then choke. And then set to run again, which it's all the way open, and there you go. So there is a little bit of a slack in it. So that's all the way closed, choke. It's ever so slightly off, so it's almost like you have to set it for a little bit past run, that little bit of travel. But not a big deal. It's definitely set to run and then off. So I'm going to call that done. These are longer bolts that go in here and here, not down here. So these longer bolts are going to go here and here because of the inverter unit. I have to reinstall the spark arrestor. I already cleaned it out. Now before we button this up, we should probably do an oil change. We'll go ahead and do that. We're going to go ahead and change the spark plug here. Now it is saying that it would be an NGK BPR6ES, or in this case I have an RN9YC Champion that I'm going to replace it with. But this will be a good opportunity to see how the engine is running. I wasn't really that torqued in there at all. Air filter is just a foam piece. I checked that and that's good. It looks like it's a newer spark plug, but it's one of those aftermarket ones, I think. I'll have to look up that part number, but I'm going to replace it with the Champion. There isn't a lot of use on it, but Murphy's Law that I use the same spark plug and it would be the cause of issues later, so we don't want to do that. So according to the manual, it says to use straight 10W30. Back on. Everything's buttoned up. All right, guys, we're ready to go and test this out. I'm going to bring it down on this platform. I'm going to need to get my 5,000 watt heater and a few other space heaters to load it up to the full 7600. I'm going to go reset up here and I'll get the camera back on the tripod. I'm also going to bundle up because right now we are experiencing -degree weather outside. I have my 2 heaters set up heating the garage, which is absolutely amazing, by the way. But as soon as I open up those doors, it is going to be very cold. Time to get bundled up and we'll reset up here in a minute. All right, here's the test setup. We have 5,000 watts from this heater at 240, 1,500, and then the heat gun on high is another 1,200. Puts us at about 7,700 watts, and that should fully load up this machine. Let's see if it starts up. Run, and choke, and start. Warm up. got 6,000 watts running, 600 watts on low. The overload alarm comes on. Check the total harmonic distortion, just for giggles. Should be no more than 5%. 0. That's the best part of an inverter generator. Well, 6,000 watts is 6,000 watts. Well, guys, I'm going to end the video here. I'm still on a bit of a quandary on why I can't pull more than 6,000 watts on a generator that is supposed to be rated for 7,600 watts. Maybe some false advertising here. But the good news is the generator runs smooth. It's tuned up, ready to go. And for now, until the other part comes in from Harbor Freight, it'll this rotary knob for the choke and the fuel petcock works just fine, and hopefully when it comes in, the customer will just simply have it as a spare. Thank you guys for watching and supporting the channel. If there's any questions on this machine, please feel free to reach out, and I'll see you on the next project. Okay, not the end of the video just yet. It was bothering me why I could not pull the full 7,600 watts from this generator. Turns out there's actually a good reason for it, although kind of a dumb one, because of the way that it is wired inside the panel. I had the L1430 with the 5,000 watt heater here. I also had the heat gun and the 1,500 watt space heater all connected here, figuring that I was going to balance out the load. So you have L1 and L2, so there's two hot wires, and you have a neutral, and then obviously an earth ground. Well, what happens is, according to this schematic here that I was able to find, when it is set to 120 and 240, the two duplex outlets that are 20 amps are all paralleled on the same L1. Now, that I really was overloading the inverter. I was putting about 34 amps on L1, and that is beyond the 31.6 amps, which equates out to about 7,600 watts that I was not able to pull from both ends of the inverter side. So L1 and L2, you really do need to pull 7,600 watts equally from the L1430. So that explains why I wasn't able to get the full load output from this generator in the way that I had it configured. That was bothering me. Glad I figured it out. If you need the schematics, I have a picture of it. You can check it out here, or I can send it to you. Let me know. Thanks for watching, guys, and for supporting the channel. I'll see you next time.